this one is all about your offshore intellectual property company, or maybe onshore intellectual property company, which obviously owns those IP rights. Very common legal strategy out there. And again, it has dramatically changed the landscape of a lot of how businesses are structured in the most recent years. So, for example, here we've got the UK service-based company, Hong Kong service-based company, and Wyoming service-based company. Maybe you're in US markets, Asian markets, and UK markets, and you're wondering, do you have a Swiss company, or do you have a Luxembourg company, which is one of my personal favorites? Do you have a Cyprus? Do you have a Malta? Do you have a BVI? Do you have Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Singapore? Again, these are all viable options. So number one, Switzerland has been perhaps one of the most greatly dominated European jurisdictions, which has attracted a lot of international IP holding companies due to a few reasons. That's number one, the political landscape is very safe and economic stability, the rules of law, and the advantages in the taxes. So WIPO is also headquartered in Geneva in Switzerland. Companies are taxed federally at 7.83% and at the communal level 4 to 16% depending on where they're actually based. For instance, a company domiciled in maybe Zug and Lucrane may be consolidated tax of about 12.3 to 14%. Whereas if you're based in Zurich, you're looking at 21.15%, and in Geneva, I think 24.16%. However, Geneva held a public referendum actually pretty recently, approving a plan to reduce the corporate tax rate on all companies to 13.99%, which is now actually in force. So, and others will be following as we move forward. With Switzerland, we should see a reduction in corporate taxes to attract those foreign direct investments. So there's been a lot of popularity within Switzerland, okay? Singapore as well should be on the radar for a lot of international IP groups who do hold those international property for international firms. So it's got a very large network of tax treaties, including ones with Russia, Canada, South Asian countries as well, and severe lower withholding taxes are applicable on cross-border royalty payments. However, the economic substance in Singapore is critical, which I've mentioned in pretty much almost every single video. However, there is a standard tax rate of 17%. However, there are partial exemptions on their first profit, such as the first 200k Singaporean dollars. There is a bit of a benefit on them, and again, the next 250k, then the next 300k as well, or something like this. I'll have to look at my documents to actually find out the facts and figures, but there are some great exemptions out there. So royalty payments on the ultimate holding company can get away with around 10% as long as the rate is not reduced under a tax treaty. So again, you know, I know it sounds a bit crazy right now because there's so much going on and I'm speaking about so many companies at the same time, but that is another location which you might want to place yourself for one of those companies. Again, if you want those fine nitty-gritty details, check out my website, book a call with me, get in contact with me. I'm sure I will be happy to help you when I have some time. So Hong Kong, one of my personal favorites. Obviously, we did it as a service-based company down here, foreign income tax-free. There's no dividends paid from an IP holding company may not be subject to those withholding taxes. Again, there's some small rates, about 2.4% or something like that, but foreign income is tax-free, which is fantastic. So all of this income, as long as it wasn't from Hong Kong, maybe for example that one was Malta, or maybe it was some other Chinese company, whatever you want, as long as it doesn't come from Hong Kong, it's actually tax-free as it's a foreign income. Okay guys, so that's fantastic. Luxembourg is my personal go-to for IP companies. So it's great for multinationals looking to establish their intellectual property holding company for the European Union, especially if a lot of their business is in the EU. They want to look trustworthy. They want that good credibility. They don't want the scrutiny of being in Bermuda or British Virgin Islands or Cayman Islands, potentially even Cyprus nowadays. And Gibraltar has been blacklisted on a few different lists as well. So Obviously, you have to comply with the regulations and compliance, but Luxembourg also has no withholding tax on royalty payments and has over 80 tax treaties available, which have made it a very commonplace for IP holding companies. And again, we're going to set up a few for businesses which obviously are owned in the UK on behalf of some law firms based in Qatar, actually. And they set up many IP holding companies. We just deal with IP holding companies, and they always love Luxembourg, and they are one of the go-to law firms in Qatar and the Middle East as well. Very popular law firm, and we deal a lot with them, and we do a lot of structures for them and help them actually do the formations, and they love a Luxembourg IP company. Gibraltar is also very good. So again, close to the UK, it's in the EU, it's fantastic stuff. Generally speaking, it's 10% tax on their net royalty income received. However, there are some exemptions as well. If it doesn't have any physical presence in Gibraltar, meaning not even a bank account, it could be exempt from taxation, again making it 0%. So there are some special exemptions as well, a little bit like Hong Kong, a little bit like Singapore, but this one is all about physical presence with Gibraltar. So it doesn't actually do any withholding taxes on dividends, royalties, interest payments, XYZ. So it's particularly interesting for a certain group structure looking at setting up a commercial subsidiary to exploit the IP rights held in an overseas IP holding company. So this would be better maybe as a service company. Who knows? We'll have to set up a call, discuss your actual business model, see what's going on, and see what is very unique for you. Obviously, I'm just chucking in all of the names there, XYZ. So I'm just looking at payments coming from these companies in there for the actual royalties, or this company paying these companies, XYZ, vice versa, depends if you want it above or below. Again, this structure is just there to put some names on there so I can speak about these ones here. As obviously, as you know, it can get quite complicated when we're speaking about so many different companies. There's so many different variations of having an intellectual property structure. It can become a little bit awkward. So British overseas territories and the Crown dependencies, again, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, BVI, and other ones as well, have been traditionally used for IP rights and traditionally exploited by entrepreneurs for doing this. There is tax neutral, okay? There's no form of direct or indirect tax. So a management company was appointed to provide a certain admin services for tax residency purposes via an offshore intermediary holding to prevent royalties paid to be subject to withholding tax. Certain business groups were able to channel part of their profits as royalties tax-free to these British overseas Crown dependencies, okay? These practices are under scrutiny. The OECD, the EU's Code of Conduct group, which is basically based on business taxation, under the form of harmful tax practices, which is called FHTP, another abbreviation for you to do some research on. And they've been focused on intensifying international pressure. They have not been successful. They can't touch them. We'll see how the world moves in 2030 when we move into a more digitalized, blockchain-based economy. And actually roll it out on an international centralized level. Maybe we see a digital pound, digital this, and there's obviously some issues now with payments, but I'm sure there's always a way around. The elites like to use these structures, and they won't let themselves lose 100% of their hard-earned money. So this means that offshore companies that are not tax resident elsewhere or planning to exploit IP rights will need to conduct their core income, be directed or managed from a country which they're incorporated, have adequate amount of operating expenditures incurred in or from within the company incorporated, have the physical presence, e.g. maintaining a place of business or a plant or a property and equipment in the country incorporated, and have adequate member of full-time employees or other personnel with appropriate qualifications in the country of incorporation. So that is basically the economic substance, the laws and the scrutiny which they came under. That is what then the companies needed to do moving forward, X, Y, Z. So, in addition, new business activity category has been established under high-risk intellectual property business, which consists of the companies exploiting IP rights and have not created such IP, have acquired an IP from a company of the same group structure or a third party that has conducted research and development of the company of incorporation and licenses to IP from the same group. Okay, so this has come under a lot of scrutiny. Now, to sum things up, we've seen a bit of a shake-up within the actual tax landscape, okay? There are other ones which you might want to consider. Cyprus, Gibraltar, Mauritius, which I didn't even put on there. Mauritius is a very popular jurisdiction nowadays. And the UK, which is an onshore location. So these are great for a company to act as an actual license, to actually set up the company that holds the intellectual property rights. Again, expansive networks will be got from these, especially if you have a company in the UK, Hong Kong, Luxembourg, Singapore. These ones are very premium kind of locations that aren't really looked or frowned upon too much. Malta, we've got the passport program. Cyprus, we've got Russian problems. Dubai and stuff, we have lots of future scrutiny. So these ones here, if it was me, definitely Luxembourg, number one. Switzerland, UK, Singapore, pretty par, and Hong Kong. This is in kind of trust, and I don't see problems with Luxembourg at all. These ones here might come under a lot of scrutiny, obviously, and Gibraltar as well is kind of in the middle between all of these. So this is where I'd rate all of these companies for holding the IP. The LLCs don't really matter nowadays, that's just the operational companies. But it depends really how the actual structure is set up, where it's been formed, where the payments are coming to, being received from, if that company owns that company, X, Y, Z. I cannot just say that on like a video because there's so many different structures. I'd be here for about 50 hours explaining different variations. You're probably already a little bit confused, but that's what kind of happens in this world. It does get very confusing. So again, if you have any questions, drop them below and drop me a like, please. You know, I've been receiving some really good engagement if I look on the recent videos. I'm now over 1,000 subscribers, so thanks guys for the love and the support. Thanks for the comments and helping me get on that YouTube algo. Doing really good stuff. I'm going to continue to upload a lot of high quality content that you can't really find online. So I'll see you in the next video. Hope this one you got some more ideas for your IP company. If you were interested in setting one up, obviously shoot me a message, jump on my website, drop me an email, will.hodgson@forwardpointsolutions.com, or just anything at forwardpointsolutions.com. You can email Steph, you can email Gabriel, you can email Giuseppe, you can email Pablo. We have a few employees which can obviously be your account manager and take you through those setups there moving forward.